pretty much the summer update hit the day after I made my video regarding the beta, and not a lot really has changed since then. You've got the new USB cosmetics and Mrs. Foster. With these just being cosmetics, there's not really a lot to say. I do love the neon weapons personally, and I've sunk a bit of money into these, and I did also pick up Mrs. Foster. I think she's fantastic, the model looks great and the voice actress really delivers. I don't agree with the price, however. I would have probably said £5 max for the character pack, especially when it offers so little. Instead of it being a DLC like you'd buy normally in Killing Floor 1, you buy it through the in-game store, meaning I couldn't actually buy any of these to give away during a stream, which that's not a problem to you, but that's kind of a problem to me. And don't worry, I have pestered Tripwire about this. They are looking into a way of getting around this, and once they do, I'll probably end up doing a giveaway on Twitch, which if you don't follow it, you should follow it now, because I do tend to play Killing Floor 2 a lot on there. Anyway, moving on from Mrs. Foster, there's actually a lot more to talk about today. So recently, after the main event of E3 was over, Tripwire was streaming over on Alienware's Twitch. There were two members of Tripwire who were on the show, which were the community manager Jared and the games director William. And then you had someone who I was assuming from Alienware, which was Anna. Basically what that happened through the stream was they were playing Killing Floor 2, talking about the new update and also answering some questions. And when I say playing Killing Floor 2, I mean Jared went on Hell on Earth and then put the cheats on. Don't really know why he did that, because Hell on Earth on solo is pretty easy, but that's not really important. Anyway, to give you a summary of the more important stuff that was put on there, I will do it in a bit of a weird order. So I'll get the little things out of the way first and then move on to the bigger stuff, and then finally the questions I asked myself while I was on there. So this is probably going to sound a lot more unorganised than it normally does, and I'm sorry in advance. To start off, someone asked about getting some new weekly challenges added to the game, as the ones we currently have are starting to get a little bit stale. And I do agree with this, especially with the £1 ammonium now pretty much being redundant, as quarter pounders and the king flesh pound are now part of the main game. Unfortunately, we didn't really get much of a response from this, but we do know that they're working on it, it's just not a main focus. Apparently as well, the designers have a couple of ideas down the line, and they're taking feedback from player suggestions on the forums. What I can confirm though is apparently there is a weekly mode called The Floor is Lava, which is pretty self-explanatory. I honestly think if they're trying to get suggestions, it might be worth looking at the Steam Workshop, as there's a few on there which are actually really good, and there was one recently focused on the E.D.A.Rs, literally called Flying E.D.A.Rs. From what I've heard, it just makes E.D.A.Rs a little bit more interesting. Another question that was asked was regards to having a new perk added to the game. From what they explained though, we won't be seeing anything new anytime soon, sadly. But what we do know is Survivalist is finally going to be getting a rework, and I think that's a bit more important because Survivalist is pretty shit. I don't really find it that fun, and I know a lot of people genuinely hate the perk itself. In regards to a new perk though, I'm hoping we'll either finally see martial artists reappear, or have a new perk similar to Cryogenics one I mentioned in a previous video. But whatever it is, it will probably be better than Survivalist. From most of the questions, we did get the reoccurring response of the developers are currently listening to feedback from both hardcore and new players to the Killing Floor scene, which has helped shape some of the changes we've seen today, and thankfully they've also been listening to the feedback regarding the weapon upgrade system, and what we were told sounds pretty good overall. To give you a gist of what they said, they're basically fully aware that the weapon upgrade system is currently a big bother to most players, and that they're currently working to introduce more depth into the weapon upgrades. A small taste of what they're looking at is areas like mag sizes, incapabilities and penetration. So basically, instead of making certain weapons a pure powerhouse like they are now, other weapons may see alternative buffs which, while they don't increase damage, they may also increase other areas of the weapon to make that gun feel better. I'm hoping these are all optional so players can choose what area to upgrade first, similar to what I explained in one of my previous videos again, but again we have to wait and see, and I think they're aiming to get this out within one of the next updates. While we're on the topic of weapons though, we did get an idea of what to expect during the Halloween update this year, and actually we got more than I expected. So first off, we have confirmation that the winner of the last community vote was actually the Fn-Fal for Commando, and that should be added in the next major update, which they hinted at again being Halloween. Besides that, we might actually also see some more medic weapons down the line. Once again, this could be during Halloween, but another was mentioned, but it won't be added anytime soon. I'm hoping the new medic weapon is for a perk that doesn't currently have a medic weapon, so either Firebug, Sharpshooter, Demo or Berserker. Personally, I'd like to see a Medic M1 Garand hybrid, but for the love of God, do not give it a scope. I fucking hate the scope on the M14, it's the only reason I don't use it. Either that or just give me an option to take the fucking scope off. I don't know what it is, but I just genuinely hate that scope. It's the only weapon I have a problem with. As for a third weapon though, they didn't really say anything. Someone did ask about a Gatling shotgun, and after looking it up, they did jot that down. And yes, I did look it up myself. The Gatling shotgun is actually a real thing, and honestly I hope they add one, because Jesus Christ, that weapon looks ridiculous. I'm not going to show you what it is, you can go look that one up for yourself. To delve a bit further into what we know about the Halloween event, they have confirmed some more information. Thankfully this time round, the seasonal challenge for Halloween won't be easy, which pretty much I welcome with open arms, because the summer event this year took me one game of Killing Floor to actually unlock it because it was so easy. Tripwire have also confirmed that Zed will be given an event skin this year, but it won't be the Hillbilly Horror style like in Killing Floor 1. It'll be something completely new this time round. However, to no surprise, they haven't actually told us what it is yet, so we're pretty much guessing at this point. Finally, from what they told us as well regarding the Halloween event, we're in for something much bigger this time around. Apparently this year's event has been in the works since 2016, and they should be expanding the game even more with this update. I did hear mention of a new game mode, but I can't say for sure. Finally, they did also confirm that Killing Floor 2 does actually have coming content for 2019, which to myself I'm dead excited to hear. I do hope though that one of the key areas they look into is expanding the lore of the franchise. Like someone asked previously, the lore in the current game is pretty much non-existent, unless you really look for it. But lore videos aren't really my field, as that's someone else's department whenever she gets around to it. What was in my department though was asking questions which I wanted to know, which no one else probably cared about. And the first thing I asked was regarding the objective mode. With the way objectives are currently designed, they're an optional part of the survival mode. However, I think the direction Tripwire should take for this is to add holdout to the mix, making a map which has a linear and progressive style like Krampus Lair, but adds specific objectives for certain areas like they do in Airship, meaning players can choose to do it if they want to. The response I got for this is that this could be possible down the line, but at the moment it's still early days. They did mention earlier that objective modes is a sub-game mode known as survival objectives, and that this could mean that it's a completely new objective mode down the line altogether, which would be interesting to see depending on how they approach that style of objective. It could be something like Killing Floor Incursion for all we know, but again we'll have to wait and see. Other than that, I also asked about the original maps and if we'll ever see them reimagined for Killing Floor 2. I say reimagined because I feel like Bartic Labs and Killing Floor 2 is a prime example of what a reimagined map could be. I'd rather see maps redesigned and fit more into Killing Floor 2's art style and universe. Tripwire's response was that they are aware that people want various maps to come back, but they haven't actually looked into it directly yet. Though they have said if we ask enough that people will consider it, and that they're probably going to add it into the next community poll, so for the love of God, will someone please vote for Steamland? It's the only map I want in Killing Floor 2. Don't care about the rest. Mountain Pass can go shove it. Steamland was the best map. First map to introduce objective mode. Bring back objective mode with Steamland in 2019 please. Anyway, the last question I asked was a feature I'd personally like to see in Killing Floor, and it will probably never happen because of how long it's going to take, and that's changeable starter loadout weapons for each perk, mainly in the area of having a unique starter pistol, or maybe a tier 1 weapon alternative. Tripwire did explain they would like to implement this, but as I expected, it's probably going to take a fair amount of time to implement. I don't really know much about game design, but what I would suggest is a couple of designers take some time aside and then maybe whack something together. I actually have an idea of a video that could explain some better detail, and maybe I'll do it in the future. I'd like to also mention that when I asked this question, I did ask about a fully auto varmint rifle, and they completely blanked it. I assume at that point that I'm the only person who actually cares about this weapon. Yeah. Just me? Right, I see. Anyway, that's pretty much it in the regards of important information, or at least what I found important. I'll leave a link in the description and provide a timestamp so you can actually watch the entire thing yourself in case I have missed anything. There also was a question regarding the D.A.R revoice, as some players actually preferred the beats in the original Killing Floor. Personally myself, I preferred it that way as well, but unfortunately that won't be happening. They've said that it will take too much resource to go back and retrofit it, so yeah, sorry D.A.R players, you've kind of got to stick with the voices. But my question for you today is this: what do you think the new Halloween skins will be, and what do you think this new big change is going to be? Because the weapon upgrade system is fairly big itself, but from how they're saying it, it's something much bigger. Anyway, as you go to write your silly responses down below, I will leave you with one last little statement. Someone did ask about the fix to reload cancelling, and I think it's better you hear what they say themselves.
Any comments on the removal of reload cancelling?
Sure, I'll address that since I know quite a bit about it. Reload canceling was never an intended feature. It was something that we were mostly fine with it existing over time, you know, barring the right to reserve to revisit it, which we obviously have done currently. It just, what it had become, it was becoming pretty much a clutch among many players due to how it exploited the reload mechanic and allowed players to bypass a lot of things. And just watching a lot of player videos more recently, it was completely negating balance mechanics that are in the weapons to make them balanced and make some perks balanced, and there was no way for us to really balance around that anymore, because there were even some mechanics and exploits that we weren't fully aware of, that we had only recently started to see in some of these videos.
Okay.
So we came down and we addressed it. We know there were our players that liked it. We know pretty much why you liked it. It allowed you, if you pulled it off right, feel skilled, like you had an impact. But at the same time, it wasn't too skillful to pull off. We would like to revisit that in the future and add a more legit mechanic to allow something like that. That isn't a promise that one will appear. But that is the reason why it was addressed, and that is sort of our reasoning behind it.
Got it.
It's something we are keeping an eye on. As I said, we do have thoughts about what we can do to try and have something else that fills that role without being so exploitive.
Got it.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole reasoning of us even fixing it is we thought that was actually causing a lot of negative experience for a lot of players. They weren't wanting that, so we were surprised that there was a backlash for us fixing that exploit.
Yeah, I forgot to mention there actually were groups of players out there who said, "Hey, when are you guys ever going to get around to fixing this?" So it helped push it up our list a little bit.
That was the whole reason why we actually did do that.
Oh, okay.
Is because we were hearing, hey, why are you guys
What's
not fixing
going on?
this?
Yeah.
So I mean, we're keeping our eyes on it, and if there's anything, that we can do in the future to fix the exploit, but still have those mechanics that people liked, we're going to try to add some of that stuff in there.
Will Jared ever stop being so cheeky?
No.
Not anytime soon.